Welcome back to Deloitte's Public Sector Accounting Standards Update, Keeping Current webcast. I'm now joined by Mike Goodfellow, the lead national partner in our Public Sector Audit Advisory Finance practice. Mike, can you start off by sharing with us a little bit about what the practice does?
Sure. Thanks, Matt. We built a practice really focused on trying to support and guide finance leaders as they embark into their journey of modernization and transformation. As we found out over the last 5 or 6 years, no end of change, events, disruptions, and challenges facing finance leaders today. And what I wanted to do, and we started this about 4 years ago, is share trends, insights, and ideas that have been impacting the role of finance, and really putting a bit of a framework or a perspective to really share those insights and ideas for finance leaders. And so the purpose of today is hopefully we'll be able to share some insights and some perspectives that might help you finance leaders today across the country with their challenges. So we wanted to share a little bit. Every quarter we do a finance CFO survey to really gauge the pulse of what's top of mind. And I thought it was important to share a little bit, although these are mainly in the public company, North American, global perspective, but oddly enough, most CFOs, regardless of whether public sector or private or in the public company domain, everybody tends to face a lot of these challenges. And so, to no great surprise, from an external risk perspective, these global organizations, they're really preoccupied with the U.S. turmoil around the geopolitical landscape and really trying to manage risks. But what they're seeing right now is there's optimism that's come out of the last 4 years in terms of what the markets are really helping them with. But also, they're starting to say, well, maybe we need to be a little bit concerned around where growth is coming from, and a little bit more of a pessimism around next year and where things are at. But it's interesting from an external risk perspective, geopolitical and the U.S. political turmoil is dominating the agenda.
And you're right, and it does have a bit of an impact. If you think about sort of what's happening between Canada and the U.S. right now, like NAFTA,
Absolutely.
discussions happening, right? And that's got a lot of people talking, a lot of concerns about what that means for Canada.
It's really the impact of finance is the unknown,
Yeah.
the what if, and what is the outcome going to impact the organization, its constituents, and its people.
Yeah.
But as we start to take a look at the external risks, internal risks start to bear out. And these are the risks around finance being able to operate and be able to provide those insights to the organization. So whether you're whatever type of organization, large size, small size, or public, private sector, I mean, these are issues in terms of how your finance team can be able to support the challenge, support providing that advice, guidance, partnering behavior to the organization as these challenges arise. And really the top of the list, and it's been the top of the list probably for the last 5 quarters, and that is talent. And it's talent as it relates to not just the attraction retention, but it's the morale and the engagement of people while they're actually at the place of work. And in the public sector, we're finding that in a lot of cases, the longevity of employment is significant. But it's really, are we getting the most out of the talent that we have? And are we providing the opportunity for the talent to grow to where they're capable of delivering? And that's really starting to become the direct number one issue. Also, we asked a question in this past survey around what are the number of direct reports CFOs typically have, and mind you, these are the more North American global companies. The mean number is 7, where we're starting to see a little bit better in the emphasis on the little bit better in the diversity side of things, but 6 men and one woman for the number of direct reports. But also interesting that half say that they will have a CFO ready for succession within the year, which is good because we've been saying is that's one of the biggest challenges that we have is we're not actually spending enough time developing that next generation of leader.
And so, the talent issues, touched upon it, I guess, in the public sector, where you may have a typical longer term in terms of the employment of an individual, right? Because usually public sector, employment is kind of structured for employee for life, especially when you think about things like defined benefit plans that are available. So, I mean, what mechanisms are in place for CFOs? Or what are you seeing CFOs in terms of addressing, I guess, some of those talent issues and making sure that that talent sort of is able to learn and grow as technology changes?
It's interesting because there's been a gap in terms of formality in allowing for the learning and growth of the individual as they go move along in their career. The GPA program has courses and learning paths for them, but in a lot of cases, what we're finding is that the skills as related to alignment, leadership, talent management, technology, the use of or the change management within that adjustment or enhancement, those are real gaps. And really it's forcing CFOs to start looking outside and connecting into networks that are outside of either their industry or even their geographic location. And really trying to help build the competency map of their individual versus just the roles and responsibilities and check.
So much more focused in on competence, right? And how do you develop those competencies they have now into future
Right, and what competencies do I want to have
Yeah.
as the organization and the landscape changes?
Yeah.
And that's the trick.
Yeah.
The other point is we're seeing from an internal perspective, along with talent, and you can see in this slide a number of the words sort of wrap it around to. It's really technology-driven disruption, and it's impacting not only our technology change, but the way that we operate, how we achieve growth, how do we manage the business, and how do we manage change, embedment of our controls, and reduction of costs. It's all wrapping around technology. And the landscape around technology is changing faster than ever before. And this concept around robotics and automation and embedded analytics and driver-based dynamic forecasting are all challenges that are now upon us. It's not going to be upon us in the next 5 years. The key stakeholders, the public, and large organizations are demanding this from the finance team to at least have a plan of attack. And so these are becoming talent and disruptive technology, arguably the 1-2 internal facing challenges that CFOs and finance.
How does a CFO, we talk about some of these disruptive technologies, we talk about like robotic process automation. How do you get your department your finance departments to embrace that type of change? Because change is a scary thing.
Well, the challenge is, you're right, it is a scary thing, but the big challenge is a lot of finance departments don't have time to be able to deal with that change. And so when you add something like, we want to be able to provide robotic automation to an area like AP processing, we are saying, we're tapped out. We're just trying to keep our head above water. We're at capacity. I don't have time to research or understand, let alone figure out what the right tool, approach, and implementation strategy would be. I'm just trying to be able to execute the day-to-day activity, given the limited amount of staff and the larger amount of volume. And so it's really about trying to find time. And in a lot of cases, time and leveraging the knowledge of what others have done. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when these technologies are going to come to bear. And they're and it's not going to be something that we're going to have a lot of choice over. But it is something that's going to help us become more effective and efficient. The challenge is how and which one and when. And we need time in order to figure that out. So when we start to take a look at these emerging technologies, and on the left and the right, I view those as a sample of what's out there today, not tomorrow. What's actually there today. These are what I call the eye candy, and this is what stakeholders are jumping to, and boards, constituents, committees. They're all looking for answers to how are we going to tackle big data, how are we going to deal with um, uh, in-memory computing, social media, mobile, security, cybersecurity, blockchain. And when we ask, finance leaders across the country, who knows what blockchain is, it's very scattered in terms of just the basic understanding of what it is and its applicability. But we need to figure that out because every one of these disruptive technologies, which is really disruptive for them in the industry, emerging as opportunities for us as the finance role, it really does have a significant impact on your finance operating model, and that's what's represented in the middle here. It's going to impact our policies, processes, our organization, our infrastructure, but also the way that we communicate and provide financial information, management information, and specialty finance as we manage our capital and treasury functions. So it will have a wide-ranging impact to everything that we do in finance, not just one allocated part. So it's important to make sure that we understand what it is and the impact. Top 5 issues impacting, or what we're seeing is that organizations are focusing on really 5 critical items to really start to be able to move from where they are to a place that's better. And the top areas that organizations are focusing in on is automation of transaction processing, leveraging the investment they already have in their technology. But how do I automate in order to try to save and find time? We're trying to make sure that we're investing in driver-based dynamic forecasting capabilities because everybody's looking for what's coming around the corner and how do I model and scenario plan around that. How do I embed the controls through automation into my tools and technology and really focus around the exception-based reporting, not the volume-based reporting. We're looking at the processes from end to end. So when I look at procure to pay, for example, taking it to decentralized requisitioning to ensure that it's aligned with our budgeting process so that my controls are able to then say, I'm looking at it from the areas that are outside of finance so that when finance captures information, all the information is there. And it forces finance to really collaborate with different parts of the business to help them understand the overall process and how we leverage our technology and control and output as part of providing better information. So what we also did is we asked individuals, what would you characterize your progress in applying these emerging technologies? And what's interesting is we asked questions around, have you achieved it? Are you knowledgeable? Do you know what the costs are? And have you moved beyond a pilot? Are you into operation? What's fascinating is that if you look here across the organizations that onto the survey, we're seeing well over 40% of organizations, they're knowledgeable of these disrupting technologies. But if you start to take a look at having achieved the benefit of these technologies, well over 60% strongly disagree that they've been able to achieve any benefit. Our costs of substantial barrier, by and large, yes. They believe that there's going to be embedded additional costs that could be a barrier, and that people are not moving beyond pilot. They understand the net of this is they understand that this is coming down the pipe. They're doing their planning and understanding of impact, but they really haven't necessarily achieved the output. So truly on the emerging stage of the technologies, but what we're starting to see is those that have figured it out will be in a competitive advantage situation. But we also asked us that, what about these? How do these technologies and changes impact the operational effectiveness of finance? Are current technologies mature enough to provide major improvements? We're starting to see that we're approaching the close to over the 40%, but approaching the 50% thing that we feel that the market, the tools are available and the generally available they're generally available to be able to capitalize on. But when you take a look at the have my finance function become more efficient due to the new technologies, the reality is we haven't seen data yet. And that we've seen in the second question there, we've been aggressive in using the new technology. Again, it's really only a few that have been aggressively adopting the technology. I think everybody's in agreement that the tools that are out there that are coming down the pipe will increase the operational efficiency of the finance function, but we need to plan and analyze and determine where and how the impact. As it relates to analytic and support, decision support, what we're also seeing the same sort of trend. Current technologies, they feel they're mature enough, but have we been aggressively using it? The answer is really no in any major way. And are the operations becoming significantly more efficient? Again, similar results to the previous. I think the part of the challenge is that as we look to and assess these tools and technologies and capabilities, we believe that they're going to make significant improvements, but in a lot of cases, we're limited by the time, effort, and money that we're able to allocate toward executing and
So if you do implement, if you do start to be sort of a leader in terms of implementing emerging technology, and you do find some efficiency, what are you going to do? What is the benefit of those efficiencies?
Well, it's interesting. So maybe I'll go to the next. If we go to this slide. So when we start to take a look at these, it's really in a lot of cases what our day-to-day jobs in the finance world is mainly in the bottom half of the circle, the core finance, the operator steward activity, is the core transactional accounting and the controlled output and statement production, the providing of the accurate actuals at the time that's required. And that's really what we've sort of built finance functions around. The challenge is that the business is looking for more help and support in a lot of different areas. The budget, planning, forecasting, exercise, which we all know takes a hell of a lot more time than we ever want to admit. And then also, as we need to deal with boards and councils and such around different investments, public-private partnerships, growth, enhancement, changes, finance is getting pulled into those strategist discussion on a daily basis. And what we're finding is that if we look at automation and the disruptive technology, it's probably going to have the bigger impact on the operator steward, the core finance activity, freeing up time and capacity to be able to spend in those business partnering activities. Because at the end of the day, we only have 100% of time that we can allocate to our roles and our day-to-days, and it's really not 120 to 130%, which we find in some cases people are allocating a lot more time to their finance activities, and it's just not a sustainable allocation of effort. So what we want to make sure is we're doing this to try to find efficiencies, aka time. So when we ask our people, where do you see yourselves in this current state of, we plotted around the four phases, what we're finding is that in a lot of cases, we are more leading in the areas of the steward, which is the control-based output, the financial statement production, which is of no great surprise, because that's what core finance does. In operator, we're less in the leading because in a lot of cases there's a lot of manual activity and a lot of Excel use to be able to collate and compile all the key inputs to the statements. But what we're seeing in the current state today, we're just embarking in the catalyst and strategist activity. I've asked over 2,000 finance leaders across the country in the last 3 years, where do you sort of see your split of time between the business partner and core finance? 70% of time, they say, spent on in the core finance activities, and only 30% of time is being spent on the business partnering. If you flip to the next slide, we start to look at the desired state, and where everybody is starting to say is, I need to make sure I get a little bit more balance as it relates to the four phases. I need to make sure that I can't take away from the steward because I still need to deliver with quality and reliable output. I want to get more efficient and effective in the operator capabilities through the use of automation and tools. But I need to also be able to move beyond providing vast amounts of data to providing insight as the catalyst for change in the business, as well as the strategist activities that are just compiling and increasing on a daily basis. And so finance teams in the future are trying to make sure that we have the right balance of effort, and that relates back to the talent, need the competencies to be able to accomplish those goals.
An observation in terms of looking at this slide in terms of the difference between the desired state and the current state. I mean, certainly more balanced is one, but also if you look at the desired state, it's a much bigger box.
It's a much bigger box. But I asked the same 2,000 leaders, where do you want to be in the future in terms of time allocation? And they say 70% of the time being in the business partner activities and 30% in the core finance.
And the way for them to get there
is through automation.
Yeah.
And that is the real crux of the issue. And that did not differentiate between large public companies, large private companies, small emerging high growth private companies, and public sector across federal, provincial, municipal, and hospitals and stuff. So everybody's trying to have that same type of mix. We need to do less physical activity in the operator steward, and we need to have more of that effort allocated to the business partnering. So when we start to take a look at how do we move forward, we need to start to think about what is the strategic direction of where I want to get to? What do I really want to accomplish? What is my current state? Because in a lot of cases, what we haven't done is critically assessed where we are today. Almost every time we help folks with the current state assessment, there's always the surprise. I thought we stopped doing that like a long time ago. I can't believe we still do that. So understanding truly what you have and what is truly manual and what isn't manual and what we've been able to do or not do is really important, because you need that foundation in order to figure out how do I start to get to achieve my future state direction. We need to develop a vision. We need to understand what our goalpost is of where we want to get to. How am I going to use these automated technology tools and capabilities? What do I want to be able to accomplish? Is it truly an insight-driven organization, or is it just being able to produce the information faster and quicker to please the stakeholders, and not kill our people? All are good tasks and goals and direction, but we need to finalize and document that so we all know what we're working towards. What's that target operating model to achieve that vision? So when I start to think about the way I deliver my service, the people that I have to deliver the service, the time allocation spent delivering those services, I need to also figure out what is the production of the output and how do I get aligned with my stakeholders. It's the how I operate as a finance function and with the competency and capability that we have. And you actually need to develop a roadmap. This is an exercise, if we're going to capitalize or want to capitalize on disruptive technology tools and capabilities, become a better business partner or finance, I better have a plan, and it better be documented, and it better be nimble enough to be able to deal with the disruptions that are coming down the pipe, because there's always things that get added to the finance plate. So if we're doing things in more than a 90-day sprint, we need to have a 3-year plan, but we need to have 90-day sprints that are able to then be able to be adjusted and tuned on the fly. And we need to actually execute, because we see so many organizations that jump into saying, here are the fixes, and we make the fixes, but it's not connected with an overall plan, or we've developed the plan and we have a great vision and a plan, but then we got to close the month, or we're into planning season, we're now into, got to create this, we got to close and create the board pack. We have to actually do something with them. A lot of times the plan gets shoved to the back burner while we just have to execute our day-to-day. That's really where the change happens, and that's really making sure that activities that we want to execute on are actually being executed on. And it hurts a little bit. And it may need some additional resources, or it may need some additional support from the organization. But that's what's only going to help us move the dial up to the business partner.
Yeah. I think having a constant sort of discussion about in terms of where how you're doing it against the plan, right? And sort of that, visual sort of presence, right? In terms of that meeting, like having that plan posted or something like that in your finance department could go a long way.
Any other department that's looking to transform or modernize or change would have a project plan in order to achieve that. Yeah. That's a little bit foreign to finance. And so it's taking that best practice. It's going to keep us on track. This is what's going to be adjusted. is who's going to do it, and this is when it will get done. Um, and if you look at it in 90-day chunks, you can then start to break it down into its core pieces and not be overwhelmed with the how do I actually accomplish the go live of, so to speak, of this particular change, when in fact all we're maybe doing in the next 90 days is researching the option and increasing our understanding.
So, you mentioned that you've talked to 2,000 leaders across Canada over the past couple of years. An organization wants to connect with you. How do they do so?
Well, that's a really good question. So, the I would suspect through the contact information on the webcast,
Yeah.
but also on our website.
Yep.
And then that would be probably the best way to get a hold.
And you've been going around the country though, talking to the people, right? So there are, I guess, sessions that you're holding in various cities that people can leverage as well.
Yeah, so we've been doing for the last 4 years, a national roadshow. So usually in the fall, once organizations are through their summer vacation,